The Appalachian region of the United States is one steeped in mystery, legends, and haunting folklore. The history of the area blends indigenous mythology, pioneer superstition, and frontier isolation, creating a rich tapestry of mysteries, both fascinating and darkly eerie. For generations, the rugged mountains of Appalachia have been home to folklore that blends supernatural warnings with the stunning wonders of nature. The region's mountains are rugged and ancient, and the smoky fogs and cloudy halos that drift and crown those mountains whisper foreboding secrets, warnings that both frighten and tempt visitors, drawing us in against our will. Thick forests beckon, though we can be sure that more than wildlife lurks in the impenetrable shadows. The spectacular terrain calls our name, and once we succumb to that call, treacherous trails become tangled and obscured. Hikers can become disoriented and confused, and many is the time that an experienced trekker becomes lost, deceived, only to die frightened and alone in the cold arms of the ancient crags, caves, and foothills. Mythical creatures are spotted here. Visitors disappear without a trace. And every generation has stories, actual accounts of bizarre, unexplainable tragedy that carries the mystery of the region through generations. Tonight, let's take a look at some of Appalachia's most remarkable legends, each laced both with truth and with myth. The following podcast contains material that may be disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome, my friends, to this newest episode of Front Porch Mysteries with me, Carol Townsend. Tonight, I advise that you bring your love of the story as well as a healthy dose of your own courage as we sit here on my porch and share a few chilling tales from what is arguably the most supernatural and foreboding region of our country. These stories serve our need to try to understand and make sense of the unexplainable. They take place in the sprawling expanse of Appalachia, riddled with contrasts, a spectacular backdrop with sometimes sinister intent. An area rich in natural resources, yet inhabited by a widely isolated and impoverished people. Whether hundreds of years ago or today, there's something haunting about the black shadows cast by the towering trees of the forests. There's both respect and reverence for this, one of the oldest mountain ranges on Earth, the steep peaks and valleys dating back nearly 500 million years. There's something irresistible about the deep, yawning caves that seem to, and sometimes do, go on forever, swallowing explorers without ever again letting them glimpse sunlight. There's something hypnotic about the raging waterfalls that feed deceptively calm pools. I invite you to pull up a chair, drawing perhaps a little closer than we usually do, as tonight we walk a path of truth, lore, legend, and all the mystery and fright in between that only this region can claim. And while the dark pushes against us with its black velvet might, I'll turn on the light. Whatever lies beyond its reach is, well, part of the mystery best left unknown. The first account we'll examine this evening is the Greenbrier Ghost. The beautiful young woman exuded the charm and grace of a young bride, shy, demure, and blushing. And why wouldn't she? She was marrying a dashing man, several years her elder, but handsome and charming just the same. She had hopes and dreams of making a home and a family with him. Zona Hester and Edward Erasmus Trout Shue were marrying in spite of her mother Mary's disapproval. Mary Hester couldn't quite put her finger on her reasons for disliking the young man. If you were to ask her, I suppose her reasons would have something to do with intuition. Because of her mother's disapproval, Zona and Edward eloped on October 20th, 1896. She wore a beautiful burgundy dress with a high neck and full skirt. Her thick, dark hair was swept up in an elegant style. The blush in her cheeks was highlighted by the color of her dress, and she looked truly radiant as she took the groom's hand and recited her vows of love and lifelong dedication. Zona's mother, Mary, may not have known that her new son-in-law had been unhappily married twice before. His first wife divorced him after he abandoned her and their child. The second died when he claimed to have accidentally dropped a brick on her head while he was making repairs on the roof of their home in Pocahontas County, West Virginia. What is known for sure is that when Mary met Edward Erasmus Trout Shue, who was calling himself Edward at the time, she didn't like him. Just 3 months after the wedding, in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, Zona Hester Shue was found dead in her home. Her husband had apparently sent Andy Jones, a neighbor's son, to ask whether Zona needed anything from the store, as he had planned to leave his blacksmith shop soon to head home. But when Andy entered the Shue home, he found Zona dead on the floor. Her head was cocked at an odd angle, and there was no blood anywhere near the scene. But when Andy saw Zona Hester dead in her kitchen floor, he ran back to summon her husband. When Edward arrived at his home, he didn't appear to be upset by what he saw. Rather, he calmly declared that his wife must have fallen into a faint, as this had happened a few times before, he said. The local coroner, perhaps wishing to avoid cumbersome paperwork, agreed. He did note, however, that Edward Shue had already dressed his wife and laid her in bed before he could perform his examination of the body. In fact, Edward had dressed Zona in the very dress she had worn to marry him, that pretty high-neck dress over which he had also tied a voluminous bow at her neck. Edward told the coroner that he needn't perform a thorough examination of his wife's body at all. So he didn't. Zona was buried quickly, and life went on for everyone. Everyone except Mary Hester, Zona's mother. A few weeks after her daughter was found dead, Zona's mother, Mary, reported a series of nocturnal visitations from none other than her daughter's ghost. And Zona's ghost wasn't lingering here on Earth to cry over the early demise of lost love. No, over 4 nights, the spirit appeared and declared with stunning detail and clarity that her husband had broken her neck in a fit of rage. When Zona's ghost would visit her mother in the dark of night, Mary reported that a chill would fall over the room, dropping the temperature so low that she could see her own breath. She never doubted what she was hearing or experiencing, so she did what any mother would do. She took Zona's claims from the grave straight to the local prosecutor, John Alfred Preston. And surprisingly, Preston ordered the body exhumed, based on what Mary had told him. We have to remember that for rural Appalachia in the 1890s, the exhumation of a body was highly unusual, especially if the reason for digging up the body was based on the allegations of an apparition. Still, Mary's story was convincing enough to persuade the prosecutor. Imagine both the coroner's and the prosecutor's surprise to see that Zona's vertebrae had indeed been fractured and her windpipe crushed. The ghost, it seemed, had told the truth. The murder trial of Edward Shue began on June 22, 1897, and the prosecution's case in chief relied primarily on the physical evidence: the broken neck, the crushed windpipe, and Shue's rushed and odd behavior when the coroner first arrived. Yet the most memorable testimony came from Mary Hester herself. On the direct examination, Preston focused on the known facts of the case, avoiding Mary's account of her daughter's alleged visits from beyond the grave almost entirely. On cross-examination, however, Shue's attorney pounced on the subject of a ghostly testimony, subjecting Mary to a long and pointed cross-examination in hopes of exposing hysteria or contradiction. But Mary never faltered. Her answers were measured, consistent, and unnervingly certain. And since the defense introduced the topic, the judge found it difficult to instruct the jury to disregard Zona's testimony from beyond. Mary's visions were subsequently admitted to the official record, and after a brief deliberation by the jury, Edward Shue was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Edward Shue died on March 13, 1900, while serving a life sentence at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. The murdering husband died of an unknown epidemic. Some say it was either the flu or pneumonia, in just the third year of his sentence. This case entered American folklore as the only known instance in which the testimony of a ghost helped secure a conviction. In 1991, the West Virginia Department of Culture and History erected a plaque commemorating the murder, trial, and conviction. Located near Smoot, West Virginia, the marker reads, and I quote, "Interred in nearby cemetery is Zona Hester Shue. Her death in 1897 was presumed natural until her spirit appeared to her mother to describe how she was killed by her husband Edward. Autopsy on the exhumed body verified the apparition's account. Edward, found guilty of murder, was sentenced to the state prison. This is the only known case in which testimony from a ghost helped convict a murderer." Now let's take a look at another Appalachian mystery, this one lurking in the Blue Ridge Mountains of western North Carolina. If you've ever traveled the Blue Ridge Parkway in this area, you've probably heard of or maybe even seen Brown Mountain. Located in the Pisgah National Forest, Brown Mountain is the setting for recurring reports of mysterious lights dating back to the early 1900s, according to the U.S. Department of Interior. One night, in the middle of July, on a winding and rugged road of North Carolina, Highway 181, two astronomers from Appalachian State University believed to have caught on camera the Brown Mountain lights. These lights manifest as orbs that appear, then disappear, while staying stationary in the same spot in the sky. For hundreds of years, this phenomenon has baffled scientists, locals, and tourists alike, leaving us all to ask the question, what on earth are we looking at? In fact, the Brown Mountain lights are one of North Carolina's most notorious legends. Researcher and author Francis Cass Stevens wrote in his book Ghosts of the North Carolina Piedmont that several explanations have been offered over the years to try to explain the ethereal spectacle. These brightly glowing lights have been attributed to ghosts who are doomed to walk back and forth across the mountain for all eternity. Other legends claim that the lights actually follow the spirit of a servant searching the woods for his lost master. Others have dreamed that the glowing orbs might somehow indicate the presence of enormous mineral deposits. And of course, speculation about extraterrestrials has entered the conversation as well. Unlike many such mysteries, there is actual recorded proof of the strange appearance of these lights in the dark night sky over Brown Mountain. Daniel Caton, the director of observatories for Appalachian State University, became interested in the lights after a student claimed to have caught them on video. Caton and his assistant recorded the phenomenon over a period of 8 years, and he's interviewed more than 40 people who share what they've seen on the mountain and in the valley. They are seeing orbs of light that appear, then fade, again and again, lingering and hovering, leaving a fan or a trail of light if they move at all. The earliest written account of the Brown Mountain Lights was published in the Charlotte Daily Observer on September 23, 1913, according to George Mansfield, who investigated the lights for the U.S. Department of the Interior in 1971. Mansfield wrote the lights were seen by members of the Morganton Fishing Club who were laughed at and accused of seeing things at night. Some have thought that these lights were of supernatural origin. Others have dreamed that they might indicate enormous mineral deposits. And still others have looked upon them as some sort of natural wonder. Stories about the lights were told by the Cherokee as far back as 1200 AD. The Cherokee have a legend about a great battle that was fought between the Cherokee and the Catawba Indians near Brown Mountain. The Cherokee believed that the lights were the spirits of Indian maidens as they searched over the centuries for their dead husbands. Scientists have attributed the phenomenon of the lights to everything from locomotives traveling the mountain to light pollution, and these very simple explanations do explain some sightings, Occam's razor and all that. But Caton asserts that sightings of the lights that can't be explained as light pollution could actually have a sound scientific explanation. Those are probably ball lightning, he said. We don't know how nature makes it, but it's been documented for more than a century. Now, associated with thunderstorms, ball lightning is a spherical phenomenon that appears for only seconds, moving independently through the air. According to Peter Soule, professor of geography and planning, ball lightning is thought to be concentration of corona discharge magnetically held together, kind of like the phenomenon of St. Elmo's fire. St. Elmo's fire is a concentration of sparks that's often been seen on a ship's mast, power poles, or tall, slender objects like flagpoles. With electrical discharge like a bolt of lightning, there is charge separation. Caton said he has a theory that Glenville Gorge in the Pisgah National Forest produces ball lightning naturally, but he is unsure what triggers it. Still, after observing the lights for several years, there are only 2 incidents that Caton has seen but could not explain. The first took place in July 2016. And I'm quoting here, "We had the cameras catch something that appeared over about 20 minutes and have no real explanation for that," Caton said. The incident was brief, and the light he had seen was almost like a flash exposure in the valley. None of the scientific explanations could account for what he saw. He shares that he didn't know what it was, but it definitely was not that bright spectacle that so many people describe. The professor had a separate encounter while returning from Asheville, North Carolina, but he said he found an explanation for what the object was. It appeared to be brighter than Venus, but since the object was not moving like an airplane, Caton believes it was an iridium satellite or perhaps a meteor. Whether the brown mountain lights are ball lightning, a phenomenon like St. Elmo's fire, light pollution, or souls at unrest, doomed to patrol the mountains and forests of the Pisgah National Forest, we are reminded that science is a never-ending process of discovery, and that nature still holds both wonder and awe if we just stop long enough and take it in, experience it. The brown mountain lights have been reported primarily in 3 different locations surrounding the Linville Gorge area in North Carolina. Wiseman's View off the Pisgah National Forest access road, the Brown Mountain Lights Overlook marker on North Carolina Highway 181, and at the Lost Cove Overlook at mile marker 310 on the Blue Ridge Parkway. If you're ever in the area, I hope you can work up the courage to go and see for yourself. Who or what exactly lives and moves in those ancient hills? Can science explain the lights? Or does the explanation lie beyond scientific explanation? Well, my friends, these are just 2 of the unsettling legends that dwell in the clouds, forests, and mountains of Appalachia. There are many more. We have delved into a few on previous episodes, Mothman and Bigfoot to name a couple. But what is it about this mountain range and its dark forests that haunts us so? I think we can all agree that the Appalachian Mountains are intimidating because of their sheer mass and their extreme geological age, their maze-like density, and the isolating terrain. These factors, combined with inexplicable local legends like the Brown Mountain Lights, and of course harsh predators, have fueled a deep-rooted reputation for the eerie and the unknown. The Appalachian forests are incredibly vast, dark, and dense. Because the peaks are covered in relentless tree canopies, hikers can easily become disoriented. The woods are home to wildlife that can sound deeply unsettling. For example, bobcats and mountain lions frequently make nocturnal cries that sound exactly like a human screaming. The mountains are among the oldest on Earth, dating back hundreds of millions of years. This profound age has led to centuries of localized folklore, from Cherokee legends to the tales brought over by European settlers. And who knows what these mountains have witnessed? Much of the folklore, historians claim, was created to scare children into obeying and respecting the vast and dangerous world of the Appalachian Mountains, lest it swallow them whole. But we mustn't forget that hikers do disappear in these mountains. Visitors do become disoriented and lost, only to die alone and frightened, perhaps never to be found. Fabled cryptids call this region home. Orbs of light do dance on Brown Mountain. And centuries ago, the spirit of a young murdered wife refused to rest until her killer was brought to justice right here in Appalachia. I'm Carol Townsend, veteran newspaper journalist and 6-time award-winning author. You can find me on social media and check out my website at caroltownsend.com. As always, thanks for listening, and if you're enjoying these tales of Southern history and lore, I hope you'll tell your friends. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Play, iHeart, and anywhere you listen. My team and I reference these sources to bring this story to you. The Charlotte Daily Observer, September 23, 1913. The book Ghosts of the North Carolina Piedmont by Francis Cass Stevens. Visit northcarolina.com and thewanderingAppalachian.com.